Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that's to go into a little bit more in detail about a narcissist and lacking a healthy sense of shame. So when we talk about really sort of a gap or a deficit or a rift in a relationship with someone who we find out to be narcissistic, oftentimes those individuals have a lack of a healthy sense of shame. You might also call it humility. You might call it humbleness. You might call it a check and balances within an individual. You might call it empathy. You might call it compassion. Oftentimes someone who is narcissistic has a exaggerated sense of self-importance and an unhealthy or imbalanced sense of shame, meaning they are shameless. They don't have the comfort or the checks and balances within to acknowledge and validate when they've crossed the line, when they've done something that can be hurtful, that can be doing something that is, stepping on another's toes, that is violating of someone's boundaries or their standards, and then creating a sense of guilt or really sort of a friction in other people because it's going against their values. They oftentimes then, it's a cycle or a circle where they don't want to hear it and they don't want to address it and they don't want to process it. When someone is narcissistic, they have an inflated sense of self-importance, coupled oftentimes with a lack of empathy, and this presents itself in the ways of entitlement. In other words, I'm above this. I shouldn't have to do this. I should be able to get out of this. You should be able to make accommodations. You should be able to let me get off on this one. I shouldn't have to do this. This is beneath me. There's this sort of, something is beneath me situation, and it's an unhealthy sense of shame. And just like that, on the flip side, in others, people who then are surrounded by these individuals then have an unhealthy sense of their own positive narcissistic qualities. In other words, they lack a sense of self. They're not aware of their strengths. They don't have a healthy ego. It becomes a checks or balances. Over here, there's too much ego, and then with people who relate to them, to keep things intact and functioning, they must have a decreased ego or no ego oftentimes. So you see this sort of opposites attract situation in these relationship dynamics, which can be very puzzling for people because they don't quite feel that they have direction or sort of a structure and be able to keep themselves at a certain level of happiness. They get depleted. They get fatigued very easily because there's this sort of always trying to keep up with another's entitlement or their own sense of self-importance, and they're taken aback. They then devoid themselves. They empty themselves out of a healthy sense of narcissism. In other words, I am good at this. I am awesome at that. I am right on point with this. Or they're not able to have ownership of their own sense of self in the strong or healthy and communicated and then sort of publicly validated sense, if that makes any sense. With a relationship, it's the old, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. This family ain't big enough for the both of us. This job ain't big enough for the both of us. There's this battle of egos. And that is really where, people then run into problems, and there's an unhealthy sense of shame in these individuals, and you can't go out and fix this. You can't sort of explain and justify and put it into logical terms. The narcissist, and definitely a psychopath, they don't really feel that they have done anything wrong. This is just the way this is. This is how it's going to have to be. This is who I am. Love it or leave it. And then they just sort of carry on. They're not into adapting and adjusting or compromising in relationships. Furthermore, they do not like to be challenged. In other words, called out, criticized, asked, can we change this? there is oftentimes not an open for discussion experience. So people who then aren't really strong in their own sense of healthy narcissism, i.e. healthy sense of self, where they can feel and communicate their boundaries and standards and just be like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. I've got it together. I know who I am. I know my strengths, and I can be happy and joyous and not feel criticized or, scapegoated because my happiness presents a threat to others. So oftentimes with a narcissist, others' happiness or others' even normalcy can present a sense of threat because the narcissist, deep in their mind, they know that they don't own this sort of healthy sense of shame. In fact, they tout it. To them, it's just their personality, who they are. It's, the bigger than life, or, that's just how they want to be. It's just, it's not my problem. It's going to have to be everyone else's. And they oftentimes they're not shameful if they've put others in awkward positions. They don't feel, sort of that they've alienated others. They don't understand that. And, if anything, it's just met with sarcasm or, a lot of resistance. And so people then who don't have a healthy sense of narcissism within themselves, which there also needs to be a healthy sense of narcissism, i.e. sense of yourself, sense of deserving, sense of value that is within you, that you don't have to explain and justify, that isn't open to criticism or condescension, which oftentimes is how a narcissist will manipulate others down, is to play on their fears, play on their inadequacy, play on a sense of weakness, and, extinguish that sort of flicker of life or inspiration that they possess within. They just want to extinguish. And that you should just sort of go along and bask with their ego. And so then what ends up happening is on down the road, then people who then are attracted, remember it's, the opposites attract scenario. So if you're attracted then by the opposite of what you are, you're going to find that it becomes more pronounced, meaning your unhealthy sense of self becomes even more unhealthy. What, is an unhealthy sense of, your own narcissistic needs, your own self-preserving or, positive validation goes unrecognized. It goes unchecked and becomes more depleted. In other words, once again, it ain't big enough for the both of us. There's a sense of, usurping, just all to this other person, that you must be this sort of altruistic. And then the issue oftentimes is that people then go and become too altruistic and too selfless in all giving to these individuals, and then they wonder why they feel that their life isn't going anywhere. They don't have anything going on. They've given it all up in the name of love to another, and so once again, it's that external locus of control. And these people will not have any healthy sense of shame. It's the human side. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you that way. It becomes this sort of moving target where you don't really know the rules with the narcissist. They make the rules. So you think you're playing by the rules and then they change them. It can be a very difficult and uncomfortable relationship to try to figure out, especially when there's sort of, no mediator. So realize that a narcissist will oftentimes have a very unhealthy sense of shame. In other words, I should do this. I should be just like everybody else. I have to pick up after myself. I have to earn my own money. I have to be responsible for my health. I can't mistreat people. It's mean to do this. It's wrong to do that. So having a sense of checks and balances and right or wrong that you own and that are you, that you demonstrate and then live, will give you a stronger sense of self, and then give you the people sort of on the flip side, the other side of the coin, those people who need to kind of step up their own sense of healthy narcissistic needs. In other words, not entitlement, but you know what? I deserve better, and I am going to make a change. and then embracing the change, embracing the new I deserve, embracing the I deserve to have, I deserve to be, I deserve to feel, I deserve to go, I deserve to develop, I deserve to create. On the more positive, where it's not wrought with struggling and suffering and feeling devoid and without and not enough, and then sort of that tension, that lack of flow, where a relationship is not a good fit. Be willing to acknowledge and validate it's not a good fit. The relationship ain't working. It doesn't make me less than. It doesn't make you less than. It just is what it is, and so it is. And oftentimes this is part of the divine plan. This is part of that infinite intelligence moving through you to say, I've got you. I'm going to carry you through to the other side, but you have to trust, you have to have faith, and you have to hang on. But you need to keep the head up. You need to stop looking down. You need to stop sort of that lack of sense of self, and you need to pick it up and say, I am doing this. I am, and then slowly moving into action, and stopping yourself from moving forward. Stop the attachment to the trauma bond. Oftentimes people, because of the shamelessness of the narcissist, they never hear the words that they want to hear. I'm sorry. I can change. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean, I didn't realize it affected you this way. There's this lack of honesty, and if you can't have that disclosure, then there is no sense of trust. You don't have that sort of tangible, intangible sense of happiness. So you need to be able to break free, cut the edges. If the edges are craggy, if it's unclear, make it very clear. Be a leader. Don't allow yourself to be misled. Allow yourself to pick up the pace a little bit, even if it's baby steps, and come within, and being able to then embrace a healthier sense of your own narcissistic needs, brushing your own self off, and not trying to fix or not become a victim of another's, unhealthy sense of shame. They're lacking in that area. There is something bigger. There is, place and room for you to grow. Go to church, go to synagogue, go to a spiritual center, go and do something that is out of the ordinary, where you can then, beckon the call, begin to listen to the call of your spirit. Where is it wanting to take you? Where is it wanting to show you? What is it wanting you to experience? Is it wanting you to experience just peace and serenity? Does it want you to listen? Does it want you to be in silence? Does it want you to be in soft music? Does it want you to have bright lights or dim lights? Begin to listen to the call and just acknowledge and validate, I'm listening to the call within. Where are you guiding me today? And allow yourself to develop this rapport with a healthy sense of narcissism. Not narcissism, but healthy sense of narcissistic needs. In other words, step it up a little bit. I'm going to listen a little bit more intensely and be able to, really identify and follow through when I hear that, and not play the martyr, not play the one who's going without. Where can I really step up my I am and show up there? What can I do just to show up? I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be everything. I don't have to be, all this, that, and a bag of chips. I can just be. Where can you guide yourself and come within and develop a new, healthier sense of I am that is strong and positive based? Once again, satisfying your healthy narcissistic needs. In other words, I am healthy, I am strong, I am worthy. Where can you expand and push, a little bit? Not just, a gentle stretch. In other words, a gentle stretch for yourself that you can just have and communicate. Open up that communication within. What can I do? What are my next steps? And just ask that the universe support you and show you the way. And just say, I am open. Give yourself a sense of experimentation to allow yourself then to be inspired and then act on that inspiration. The narcissist does not have a healthy sense of shame. They don't have that humility to sort of go within and that humbleness. Sometimes you need to really experience that humbleness in order to go in the right direction. I call it positive, orderly direction thinking, where you're trying new things. New things are sort of being drawn to you. You're doing the right thing, and it doesn't feel like it's so laden with effort. That happiness, even if it's a quiet happiness, maybe it's a loud happiness, maybe it's a nonverbal happiness. To what degree can you come within and be centered and allow yourself to then receive, rather than feeling that you have to fix and be subjected to, this sort of emotional sarcasm, which oftentimes you feel is not very grounded. Be able to walk away and let go of this weakness. If it belongs to others, then allow it to be, but you don't have to make it your weakness. Be able to detach from that. You can do it. Be bold, be strong. Give yourself the freedom to detach from the trauma bond. People oftentimes realize that there is a trauma bond holding you back. Be bold enough and have the courage to say, yep, I see how it's limited me, and I want to go a little bit further. And being able to know what you want, and being able to have that that ability, once you sort of free up the comfort and get out of the fight or flight, that you're then able to visualize and dream again. People, when you look at your happiest times in life, oftentimes you were dreaming. You had a daydream. You had a vision. You had a desire, and it's a positive desire. You're not then held down by negative, I wish. You're, illuminated. You're upheld by the positive. You're going for what makes you happy, comfortable, whether you want to laugh more, be more serious, be smarter, be, less intellectual, less cerebral. Maybe you want to get more into the body, drop into the body. You want to develop more yogic practices. You want to get into more, strength building. You want to get into Bikram yoga, or begin to, go to steam rooms or saunas or different places where you can golf, play tennis, play soccer, play football, play paddle tennis, something that is active where you can get out of your mind and just get more physical. This can help to build up your sense of strength, where you can go there repeatedly and do little by little, and then watch and gauge your own improvement, and then own that. This can be a great thing also to develop a hobby, whether it's cooking or baking, or whether it's candle making, or maybe you want to write a book, or just write poetry, or maybe you just want to be a cartoon artist. There's got to be something within you that once upon a time you had a dream that you wanted to have, be, or do, or become, that was sort of ripped away from you during the course of these relationships where you became other-centered. And it's created that trauma bond. It's, then you got sort of caught up in your values being made chaotic. Begin to organize and be more systematic, and become a little bit more structured in your self-care and embracing where you want to go. And begin to take, and the things along that keep you motivated. Especially now with today's mobile devices, you can carry music, you can carry podcasts, you can carry videos like this. And you can begin to, develop that stronger sense of self where you can count on it and you don't feel that things are out of check, things are out of checks and balances, or things are chaotic. Being able to realize and recognize how the relationship had made an impact, and be able to say, okay, it was negative or it was positive, whatever, but now I'm going to release that sense of weakness that I felt in the course of that relationship, and I will let it go. I'm going to let go of that weakness and begin to develop a healthy sense of narcissistic needs, even if they feel taboo. Being able to identify, what that is, because oftentimes people have been so misled from their own empowerment that it feels taboo. They have a sense of guilt, a sense of wrongdoing by letting go of the trauma bond. Being able to ask yourself, what would happen if I let go of the trauma bond? and then allow yourself to answer, not censoring it, but realistically how you feel. Because that's sort of what's going on in the rubble underneath is there's a feeling of, not wanting to participate. If you have a trauma bond, it's like an anchor. And so to what degree is the anchor serving you, or to what degree is the anchor holding you back? Being able to ask rigorously and honestly. So, and if it's uncomfortable to let go of the trauma bond, then say, okay, can I let go of the trauma bond for 1 hour? How about I let go of the trauma bond for 2 hours during my recovery dates? Recovery is just that. It's a sense of recovering, finding, discovering, there it is, your own positive sense of self, and to fall in love with life again, to fall in love with the dream, getting out of that fight or flight and being able to dream again, the what if, and then being able to take little action. And you'd be surprised how swift the changes can occur once you allow belief and faith to run through the foundation, and to acknowledge and validate the faith and belief, and to let go little by little of that trauma bond, even if it's for an hour. I'm going to do it on my recovery date this week. I'm going to take 2 hours and I'm going to let go of the trauma bond. And I'm going to embrace my healthy narcissistic needs. Even if they've been taboo before, what are they? And list these out. You might have 20 things, to go to a movie by myself, to go and eat healthy, to get rid of all the junk food, all these different things. You might be able to understand it's unique and personal to yourself. You're your best teacher in this case. It's your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day. Embrace your healthy narcissistic needs. Give yourself an experiment. See what happens when you let go of the trauma bond, even for 5 minutes. How does it feel? Write it down. Give it to yourself today. Allow that inner voice to get stronger. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It is oftentimes a very purity and strength and bliss that you live in. Allow it to just be. Allow it to just be. Oftentimes you've been inhibiting yourself from this very feeling of liberation and happiness. Once you let it go, you can do it. Doesn't make you a bad person.